Let me put out a little tweet that I'm going live. Do. Okay. Make sure I don't have anything that's apt to be leaked. All good. And we're ready to go. Okay. All solid. I'm just going to eat some dinner for a sec while people get into the chat. What's up, Owen? Hey, Iron Khan. How's it hanging? How you doing? How you doing? I got myself some chili potatoes today. Looking pretty delicious. Good afternoon. Good afternoon. Hello, everybody. Hello. Thank you for the resub, Owen. No Durka Pepe left? Durka is on my top 20. Because Durka is going to be playing at some point, presumably. Because he's tested negative and he's flying to the event, so. Will this be uploaded on YouTube? Yeah, maybe. Maybe. Depends how pithily I go through it. No pith on my top 20 because Bleed didn't make it. It's confirmed he's flying? Well, I'm assuming that. Because he got a negative result. I mean, why would he not? That was the only thing that was stopping him from going. I mean, I assume once he gets here to Iceland, he will have to quarantine for a while, just because that's a mandatory policy. But as long as he tests negative at the end of it, I think he should be able to play, assuming Fnatic get out of groups. None of this is inside info. I'm just assuming based on what he's tweeted. I saw that, King Julius. Yeah, the most aggressive AWPer and successful AWPer. Yeah, Ye's stats are just crazy. I looked up Ye's stats a while back too, and his opping is better on the attack side, which I think is just ludicrous. But again, I didn't factor in Tour de Force into that, and neither did Ominous. So I would be really interested to see how the stats change once you incorporate Tour de Force in, because they're pretty similar. Eastnick, thanks for the resub. What's up, Sacho? Hope Bren's Grand's house is going well. It's doing all right. It's going all right. I would like to see other humans at some point. That would be cool. Eastnick, thanks for the 38 months. Appreciate that. Waddell #1 if you include that. No cap. I don't know about aggression, though. He's quite a passive player recently. He used to be crazy aggro. But, yeah. Ye shows his ability the best on land, but I could be wrong this time. Well, did he have a good champions? I can't exactly remember. I remember he was fucking incredible at Masters. I can't remember him being that good at champions. I just remember him being pretty good. Yeah, I'm still in prison. I'm still in prison. You can end the stream right now. #1, Durka. #2, Nookie. #3, Trent. Only if he is in form. I will tell you. I'm not going to tell you anything, actually. I'm not going to tell you anything, except that's not the same as my list. But I don't think you'll be too disappointed. No spoilers just yet. No spoilers just yet. Have you seen the Artist Daring Minds interview? No, I haven't, actually. That was something I was interested in going and taking a look at, because Artist is just fucking mental when he's... At least when I've seen him on camera on other things, he's just been nuts. Probably quite funny. I wonder if they asked him anything about the match fixing stuff at the beginning of his career, considering it's a very, like, you know, CS focused thing. How much longer until you get out of jail? All depends. All depends. We'll see. Be warned, the entire Boaster Court is about to invade. Well, I think the Boaster Court will be fairly happy. All right. Fairly happy. But I think Fnatic will inevitably find something to mold about. All right. Fnatic seem like they enjoy molding generally. But they've got to have some level of self-awareness, right? Because Boaster tweeted out that they Boaster tweeted out back to where what did he say? Something like back to being the underdogs where we belong. Something like that. After they just shit the bed against FPX and against G2. So I rate them higher than I probably should, actually, Fnatic. Because, you know, if you just go results-based, they are the 3rd seeded team. Liquid are the 4th seed. Dude, it's fucking weird. But I think I've seen so much incredible stuff out of Fnatic that I still rate them really highly. I will say, I haven't put Hyber on the list. I was thinking about whether to rank him or not. And then I went and watched a bunch of his VODs. And it just feels pretty impossible to give him any kind of fair ranking. And I also don't think, from the VODs that I watched, he would probably not end up making the list anyway. But he is a really good player. And I think it would be fucking awesome to see him pop the hell off of this LAN. Pop the heck off. It would be incredible to see him go nutty. But I don't think his recent performances have demonstrated that, like, unreal ability to be able to crack into a top 20 list. Because, guys, the top 20 list is fucking outrageous. It's outrageous. For events like this list, the bottom player on a top 20 list is insane. Insane! They're like one of the best in their roles. Because if you think about it, there's like, okay, depending on how you break down the roles, there's maybe like, let's say there's 5 roles in the game. Not really true, but let's say there's 5 roles in the game. If you evenly distributed your list, you would still have a top 4 player in their role as your bottom player. Like, holy shit, the top 20s are so goddamn stacked for this thing. They're so stacked. So, I said I posted some tweets where I was, teasing a little bit. I said there was, a full team that made it onto the list. And I broke down some of the different regions as well. I've since made a couple of tweaks to the list. And I think you could make tons more, obviously. There's a ton of different changes you could make to a list like this. But which team do you think made the list, chat? Did you count Sire players from Korea or NA? I counted him as NA because he has been playing in North America all year. Let's have a look. Loud, Optic, Optical Loud, Fnatic, Optic. There's a lot of Optic. There's a lot of Optic out there. If you had to rate FNS, chat, where would you put him? As an IGL, as a player, where would you put him? Do you think he's one of the best IGLs at the event? Top 20 as an IGL. Well, yes. I mean, yes. Agree with that for sure. Worst major region player, second or third best IGL in the region. Well, that's quite harsh. Good IGL, but fragging-wise not there. Easily one of the best IGLs in the game. IGL top 5, player-wise 40-ish. How many players are there even at the event? Not sure. Anyway, I think FNS is a good IGL, but there's no way he can crack into a top 20 list for the event. And I don't want to focus in on him necessarily, but you guys were spamming, Optic is the full team that I've got on the list. I've actually missed out 2 of the players from Optic. There's only 3 players from Optic on this list. One of them was the slimmest of slim margins from making it into the top 20. So you'll see. Stop spoiling, fucking spoilers, man. All right, well, let's just go onto the list then, huh? Let's just get onto the list. So, first of all, let's, so one of the things I just pulled, okay, there we go. One of the things that I just pulled was, just to give you guys an idea, So this Lanimal ranking. So I did this Lanimal thing. It's not that great, but it just compares ACS online to ACS at LAN. And for some of the players, you know, the players that are just getting crushed at the bottom of this, there's many different reasons. I mean, MW changed his role from duelist over to playing Sova at Champions. Then you've got, you know, people that were playing in smaller regions, although I do think that Full Sense did kind of shit the bed at Champs, honestly. But they were in a tough group. You know, people like Crazy Raccoon, they dominate their minor region, but then they come to the LAN events and they get destroyed. So, you know, there's many different reasons that someone might be towards the bottom of the list, but sometimes it is like an underperformance. Like, where was Mystic? I think Mystic had a pretty big underperformance at Champions. You know, 20% less ACS, and really does it matter that much? It's ACS. At the end of the day, not a particularly good stat, but you know, there are some obvious things you can pull from it, like the fact that Durka went fucking dumb hard, unbelievably mega crazy. And this is part of the reason that I didn't have Durka on the top 20, actually, because his online performance heading into Champs wasn't that great, and then he just fucking pounded when he came to the event. But anyway, I've run the same kind of stats for their online matches heading into this. And then obviously I'll fill this in with their match stats. And it's only good, you know, like, it only even makes any sense to compare these numbers when you get towards the end of the group stage and people have played, like, you know, 2 games at least. 2 different opponents. But it's kind of interesting to take a look at. And anyway, if you just take a look at the, literally, I've ordered these via highest ACS to lowest ACS. These are all the players that are at the event right now. FNS sat at the bottom. Crow, IGL for Zeta Division sat at the bottom as well. You know, IGL, another one. You know, it's interesting just to take a look at the people that have been going dumb hard. Obviously, you have to characterize these and put them in the context of the region in which they're playing, the opponents that they're playing against, the roles that they play. So I obviously have not just gone through these and made these my top 20 players, because that would be fucking ridiculous. In fact, there's a lot of players on here that have not made the top 20 for various different reasons. But I do think there's some interesting things to pull out of this too. Anyway, you guys interested in the list? You want to see the list? You want to see the list, huh? How much of the top 20 scoring is statistical compared to the eye test? Most of it is eye test. I occasionally take a look at the stats. You know, very basic stuff like kill per round, first kill, first death percentage, that kind of thing. I took a look for some of them a little bit at like the if they've ever played at a LAN before, like how well they did at LAN. If they're a minor region player, so there's one guy that's in my mind right now, dominates in his own region. It's a small region though, very small region. And the last time he was at a LAN event, his first death rate just went like skyrocketed, like the highest first death rate I've ever seen. So, I try and temper the eye test a little bit, because the eye test shows, I mean, he's a phenomenal player, but it seems like he was really struggling to make the adjustment when it came to playing against harder competition, which is not something you can tell with the eye test, really, because he's only played a single LAN event. He doesn't play in 2022 against that great competition. So, you know, there's a bunch of stuff that goes into it. I will also say I rank IGLs way, way higher than their fragging performance would indicate. So if you're surprised to see a bunch of IGLs on the list, that's the reason. But we'll go through each of them. If Bala's not on the top 20 list, I'll never forgive you. Well, you're not going to forgive me. Okay, Brain better than AIM. Sometimes. But I also really rate IGLs that are providing value to their team in the server as well. But that doesn't necessarily have to be with fragging. You said you had 4 IGLs, still the same? I think so. We'll count it up anyway. So, let me just double check that I'm not showing them all off the rip. Yep, okay. So we've got a fancy little unveiling mechanism here, right? Da-da-da-da! Okay, now how do we want to do this? Do we want to have you guys guess who the players are? Do we want to unveil them from bottom to top? What are you thinking here? This is the big moment. This is what we've all been waiting for. The little top 20 action. I feel like bottom to top is the way to do things, no? The thing about bottom to top, my eyes, I am blind. Okay, all right. Chat, watch this. Very simple. Boom. You are no longer my eyesing. Well, maybe you are a little bit, but I can't do anything to help that. The cam is in the way. Oh, I'm trolling. Right, first of all, let me try and fix this a little bit. Let's try and zoom in, shall we? How do I zoom? View, zoom, 150%. View, zoom, 200%. Ooh, 200% is nearly there. Well, view, zoom, 150 will do it, I guess. Let's pull the camera over this side, shall we? We'll make it a bit bigger too. And ta-da! Does that look all right? Does that look all right for you, everyone? I'm waiting for confirmation before you all roast me and tell me I ruined this entire segment. Does that look okay? All right. Bigger cam. You guys just want my face just fucking huge, do you? Like that? Is that better? Okay. Thank God for Kurt. Yeah, I know. Imagine what would happen on the show if this was me running the production. Imagine if it was actually me clicking the buttons. God, the show would be awful. Absolutely awful. All right. So, here's the problem with doing it back to front. So the top 20 list leaves off a lot of big names. And if I start at number 20 and you don't see the player you expect there, it's not possible for you to know whether I rate them higher than you or whether I rate them lower than you. So, you see what I mean? You see what I mean? Oh, I've trolled. It pops up with the name at the top. But that's fun. Okay. All right. Fair enough. All right. This is how we're going to do this. We're going to highlight them like this. All right. So in top 20, you've already seen him because I fucked it up. Let's have a look. It's Les. So Les is the Sentinel player for Loud. He is a very young player, but he's been performing at an extraordinarily high level, in my opinion, for Loud while they've been playing and dominating the Brazilian region. Les might give you an indication about the full team that is on this list as well. But Les is fantastic. I think he has extremely good fragging and gets a lot of value out of that part of his position. And he's also pretty smart in how he plays too. There's not that many incredible Sentinel players here at the event that don't just fully play Chamber. And even some of the people that do play a lot of Chamber get kind of booted out of their role sometimes for the Starjet as well. So it's a weird time to be a Sentinel, right? So it's a pretty odd time to be a Sentinel player. But I think Les, you should absolutely have your eyes on him. He's extremely talented. Extremely talented. Is Buzz considered Sentinel? Yes, Buzz is considered a Sentinel. And let's see. So, number 19. Let's have a look at who that one is. Number 19 is Crashies. I think Crashies has had a reasonable year. He's had some maps where he's looked absolutely dominant. He's had some expansions to his agent pool. He's played some Viper. He's played some Breach. He hasn't looked insane this year, though. He hasn't looked unbelievable. Whereas in the past, I think he was the benchmark by which all other Initiator players were ranked. To me, that is no longer the case. I think there are other Initiator players who have demonstrated better flexibility than Crashies and more impact on some of the other roles outside of Sova. But Crashies also is still good enough to make a list like this. He is still a phenomenal player, a massively, massively good player. So, let's move it along. Number 18. Now, I really struggled to place this player. I've put Kesnit down here at number 18. And I feel like it's a little low. But here's the reason. Kesnit's a phenomenal player, but I think his performance at this event is going to be hampered by the fact that the roles he's currently playing on the team are not going to lead him to success. His KO, in my opinion, doesn't look that great, and he is the flex player for the team. He's not really their primary fragger. I mean, kind of is. He plays Jet for them on 2 of the maps. His Jet doesn't also look that great. I think that's going to end up being a bit of a flaw for him, too. And I think also stuff like the Phoenix, while he does frag out super hard on it within the LATAM region, I think that's going to end up causing difficulties for the rest of his team. Now, is any of this really Kesnit's fault? No, I don't think so, because really he's doing his best job with, I think the primary duelist player, Nags, on his team is a bit of a burden for Kesnit to bear. Nags really only steps up in either like portions of a map, portions of a series. He doesn't really have the big impact that you want from that like Jet and a little bit of Chamber player. So I think Kesnit, when he plays the roles that he plays, like let's say Kesnit on Raze would be in the top 10. Kesnit, for the entirety of his agent pool right now, across all of the maps that crew are going to be forced into playing, I think is going to look significantly weaker than his peak performance. His peak is still going to be nasty, though. If you catch this guy on the right map, holy fuck, he is going to farm. So I found it difficult to really rate Kesnit. He has to be on the top 20 list, I think. But I think this is going to be his... I mean, he hasn't really played a huge amount of events, but I think this is going to be his weakest event because of the problems that crew are currently going through. It doesn't mean he as a player is poor, but he as a player within the context of the role he's going to be playing for this event, I don't think he's going to be as impressive as he was last time. So I understand that this looks like a really low position to put Kesnit, and I still rate the guy, but I don't think he's in a position to succeed. So, number 17. I've got Sassy here. And again, that might be considered a bit low by a lot of people. But I think Sassy is a phenomenal player. But I've got the hot take currently that Sassy is not as important for the team's success as the other people on Loud that I've ranked above him. And the reason for that being that Sassy, because he's now on such a talented team, appears to have taken a bit of a step back even in terms of his aggression and like how he's controlling the game. And he's not the kind of player that's going to be like Trent, getting fucking straight into the trenches, finding you those amazing turning point kills in a round. Sassy is insanely good for the kills he needs to get towards the late round. His utility usage is fantastic. He's just a de facto excellent player. But when you see some of the, like, if you're comparing him, for example, to Trent, I think Trent's got, at the moment, such an outrageously hot hand that delivers his team a massive amount of those crucial kills in the round. Sassy doesn't have to do that because he has other players on the team that are doing that for him as well. So, I think Sassy is currently an amazing player, but not as integral to Loud's success as the other people on the team. So, I think Sassy's fantastic, but I also think there's a lot of rounds where Loud just win without him really having too much that he has to do. Will he step up at a LAN? Yeah, absolutely. Will he be the player that maybe like has the highest rise against better opponents? Yeah, maybe. All right, number 16. Mystic. I think Mystic had a really poor champs performance, but his online performance heading into that and his online performance at the beginning of 2022 has been fabulous. It's been absolutely fabulous. He's certainly one of the best smokes players in the world right now. He's able to play whatever's required, and his timing on being able to support the rest of his team and be that like perfectly positioned supportive player at all times is just excellent. He's also mega clutch, similarly to somebody like Sassy. But the role that he occupies on this team is to make use of the space that somebody like Durka gives him. So, you know, there are different roles, I feel, the way that I model Fnatic And it's like Boaster's the IGL and also the person that sets up Durka to take the space. Durka entries and takes a lot of that space, and it's Mystic's job a lot of the time to scale in behind Durka, hold the space, and either trade out, get kills on people trying to contest that space, that kind of thing. I think he's amazing at that. So, yeah, definitely deserves to be on this list. You could argue he's a little overrated here, maybe, being above people like Sassy or Kesnet, but I think he's an excellent player, and I think the supportive element to the way that he plays, the timing, the positioning, lack of being punished, all looking pretty amazing right now. All right, number 15. Hoodie for G2. Hoodie is a glue player for G2, and he also low-key frags. He is a very skilled player. He's flexible. He has been an enormous addition to G2 in helping them get into the winning positions that they need to get into. I think the impact that he has is frequent and large. He's been playing very, very well. Number 14. Valen. Now, I don't think that Valen is a better player, hands down, than Hoodie, Mystic, Sassy. Even Kesnet if he was on the best possible role. But what Valen has been able to achieve with the guard, IGLing, young player, not very much experience before, and he also frags. Holy fuck, this guy's important to guard's success. Really important. He's not the kind of at least as far as I'm aware, he's not the kind of massive micro caller that somebody like Boaster has previously been, or you might think of, I don't know, the FNS mastermind kind of stuff. It does seem to be a bit more of a shared load on the guard in terms of a lot of the ideas coming from MCE, and the rest of the players on the team being very good at being able to contribute as well. But I think Valen deserves major, major props for being the leader of a team that's able to get to this point, being able to keep the team composed, keep the team headed in the right direction. This team doesn't play a sloppy style. They are all drilled, disciplined, excellent at being able to adapt. And, did I mention, he frags the fuck out as well. Valen is a really good fragger when it comes to IGLs as well. So, I think Valen's extremely valuable to the guard's success, which is why he's ranked pretty highly here, even above players where I think they have more impact in the server. So, number 13 on my list. I have Forsaken. This is the player I was talking about earlier when I mentioned that via the eye test, they look absolutely fabulous. Fabulous. If you watch APAC games and you watch Paper Rex, holy Farmville, Forsaken is insanely good. Insanely good. But when he actually played at Berlin, he had 0.25 first deaths per round. That means 1 in every 4 rounds, the guy is just dead. And, okay, the stat doesn't actually tell you he got nothing done. But when I remember watching the games, he got nothing done in a lot of those situations too. So this is where the eye test and the stats would indicate he actually belongs higher up this list. But on the other side of this too, he also is incredibly valuable in providing these niche agent selections to Paper Rex. He plays the Neon for them. He plays, obviously, the Jet. He plays the Yoru for them as well. And this is a big part of how Paper Rex is currently winning, playing extremely fast and aggressive early rounds, putting a lot of responsibility in Forsaken Sons to open things up. But again, I struggle to rate him higher than this because I don't think he's going to be able to carry that level of dominance through to Reykjavik. So that's why I know a lot of you will be like, who mega lolling? Because APAC doesn't get very much viewership. Just trust me. This guy is fucking cracked. He just might not be able to do it at Reykjavik. Above him, though, in 12th. Above him, though, in 12th is Victor. I'm very high on Victor heading into this tournament. I think he has had an extremely good performance picking back up the main duelist role for the team. He's playing well when he plays on Rays. Vic is better than Crashies. I think at the moment he is, yeah. I think at the moment he is. I think historically, Crashies has absolutely been better. This year, Victor has been more important to their success than Crashies has. I would say that. Absolutely, I would say that, Space. The reason being is that he's just playing a much more important role right now for the team. He has tons more responsibility on his shoulders, and Crashies hasn't been playing like the same god tier performances he was putting up in 2021. So, what has Victor currently been doing? Well, he had a couple of games where he hard fed on Neon, and then improved it quite a bit, but I still don't think that's his best pick. Really, I think the KO that he's added into his game has been phenomenal. Phenomenal. As much as Crashies carries games whenever you get him onto Sova on Ascent, Victor's KO has been lights out. And that was never something that was in his game at all. He was still a decent player, but around the time of Champions, I know he had COVID, but he still wasn't looking like... His agent pool looked wonky. He didn't really have any games where he was on that primary duelist role and he could take over. He certainly has had those games with the entry role, getting frags, carrying his team on his back this time. And then also, his KO has been such a massive addition into this team's toolkit that's really important. Now, as for the Marved pick, because people in the chat are like, what? No Marved, no Marved. Yeah, I don't have Marved on my list right now. And one of the reasons for that is I think he's currently being spread a bit too thin. And I think that the biggest thing he was adding to this team was his insanely good Astra. I think Marved had a fantastic Astra. And you got an advert. Unlucky. And I think Marved losing the Astra has meant that the team now just puts him on a range of different stuff. It puts him on all sorts of different things. And while he's still pretty smart in how he plays, and he still frags fairly decently, I don't think he's got that perfect positioning, perfect supportive gameplay like Mystic has, for example. I don't think he has the batshit fragging of somebody like Mako, for example, too. And similarly for Pancada as well. I think Pancada gets way more important kills in the middle of rounds than Marved is doing right now. I think when you consider the Smokes players, Marved has relatively fallen down the list with the loss of Astra, more so than a bunch of other players, actually. So, 11th. Let's have a look at 11th. I've just leaked it anyway. 11th is Saya player. I think Saya's been pretty fantastic. Main duelist player, plays the Jet, plays the Rays. Mega impact, very clutch. Improvisational talent is fantastic too. He has been very, very good for this team. He hasn't been unbelievably dominant in the same way that some other primary duelist players have been dominant in this tournament, though. So, while you might... A lot of the NA fans are going to be like, what the fuck? Not in the top 10. What the fuck? Not in the top 10. When you're comparing him to... And listen, these might be a little bit spoily, but when you're comparing him to the best players on that main duelist role coming out from Fnatic, coming out from Loud, coming out from DRX, those players are having absurd impact that even surpasses the way that Saya is playing right now. And part of that might be because they have weaker regions, but I don't believe that's the case for EMEA at all. And Aspas and RB are fucking phenomenal. And you underrate them at your own peril, NA fans. NA fans, underrate RB and Aspas at your own peril. So let's crack into the top 10, shall we? There'll be a familiar face here. It's RB. Like I said, I think RB's a fantastic player. He plays the jet, he plays the raise, he plays the hard entry role. He is so much better than he was when he was playing Initiator for this team. And this may end up being a bit foolish, me having RB above somebody like Saya. But I think it can pay off here. I think RB on Duelist has shown enough talent across the entire time that I've been watching Vision Strikers and DRX play that I would rate him above Saya. I think the Guard have a better system. They have a more complete game. They're a better team. But that doesn't mean that all of their players are better than the players on DRX. And I think RB, both in terms of how he makes his individual decisions and his fragging, might be a tad stronger than Saya is. But I'm not too confident on that. I think they're pretty comparable. But both very good. So let's have a look. Unveil number 9. Digging into the top 10 here. This is where I've got Aspas. I think he is a beast. He's fucking phenomenal. He frags like a demon. He plays everything they want them to play. He's very young and inexperienced. And maybe he won't live up to the hype this time around. But he is fucking nasty. He's nasty. Now, you might also be thinking, though, all right, I've got him rated in the top 9, but I've got him underneath 2 players on Loud. What the hell is going on there? The reason being, I think Loud do an excellent job setting up Aspas. And the 2 players that I think are most important to Loud's success are 2 of their supportive players. I think the reason that Loud is such an amazing team right now is not because Aspas is the best duelist in the region. I think it's because they have the best supportive cast and the best team system in the region. And that comes from the other players, not necessarily coming from Aspas. So that's why I've rated those players extremely high. There are some teams that are really, really driven by their duelist just going dumb, hard, unbelievably mega stupid crazy. Like Fnatic. But also, Fnatic are really good at being able to put that player in position and capitalize on the space. Which is why I gave so much credit to Mystic for being able to do that. But I think Aspas has an extremely, extremely talented supportive cast, and that is currently making the difference for this team. That's the way that I'm thinking about Loud right now. How much better is Aspas than Heat? Because Heat was nasty as fuck. I think that's quite difficult to say again. Because Aspas has such a better team system around him. I think it's possible. I think it's possible that Heat might even be a better player. I think Aspas might be more well-rounded, though. I think what I really appreciate about Aspas is that he's fit into their system. He doesn't overheat too much. He plays more roles. Like, I think he's a very, very talented player. But it's possible that there are other duelists who are better than him within the Brazilian region that Loud could maybe get this level of success with. But there is no other team in the region that Aspas could go to and have this same level of success. Because it's the team system, it's the supporting staff that are getting Loud these victories, in my opinion. Yampi mod check, Nevera mod check, Scream mod check, Mixwell mod check, EMEA players getting shafted for no reason mod check. Okay. Tell me you've never watched any Liquid games recently without telling me you've never watched any Liquid games recently. Did you just stop watching them at the end of 2021? Did you just literally stop watching them at the end of 2021? Their players are in horrible form right now because the team is running around like a headless chicken. If they fix it for the LAN, then yeah, those players are talented and can find success. But within the last 3-4 months, there is no shot that those players are up there. And as for Mixwell, I was really fucking sweating putting Mixwell on this list. I really wanted to put Mixwell on this list, but spoiler alert, he's not there. He's not in the top 8. But I really, really wanted to put Mixwell towards the like 15 to 20 position But I feel like Mixwell's performances have been very recent heavy. Like I think there's a big recency bias with wanting to put Mixwell super high up the list because his group stage performance and the early playoffs performance were really passive and really low impact. But it's not recency bias if he continues it and he's just figured something out about how to play the role. So I think it's very possible. Someone just said in the chat, Mixwell is this year's Durka. I think it's really possible that Mixwell is this year's Durka, chat. I think it's very possible. Very possible. Because G2 have just been looking better and better and better. They have been improving and improving and improving. And part of what's improved has been Mixwell's chamber. But if I'm taking the whole of 2022 into account, I can't justify putting him over a lot of the other players on the list. So what I mean, chat, what I mean by Mixwell being this year's Durka, I don't mean he's going to be the best player at the event. I mean he's going to be the player that I've underrated the most. I'm not saying he's going to dominate the fucking tournament like Durka did at Champions. That's not going to happen. Clueless. I don't think that's going to happen. But I am saying he could be the player that I've underrated the most. So, number 8. Let's have a look. This is where I've put Pancada. So I only put him a spot above Aspas. But I think Pancada is so good and very underrated right now. Who Megalol's coming out in the chat? Who Megalol's coming out in the chat right now? Dude, Pancada is unbelievably good. His fragging is off the fucking charts, and his read of the game is extremely strong. And he has such a high impact from what is normally quite a low impact role, especially with Astra not even being played this much. If you haven't heard of this guy, just wait and see. That's all I can tell you. Wait and see. Marved is way better. What the fuck? Not this year, he's not. Maybe last year when you're taking into account the Astra, I would have... I mean, Pancada didn't even play on a good team back then, so yeah, I mean, hands down, obviously, yes. But if we had kept on the same patch, it's possible that I would have agreed with you. Because I think Marv, towards the end of last year, had such a great feel for how to get massive value out of Astra. But this year, I haven't been that impressed. I think there have been other Smokes players, like Mystic, like Pancada, who are getting more value than him. I think the Valen argument, I know that Valen plays Smokes and he's on the list, but the Valen argument is driven very heavily by his IGLing. He still frags, he's still a good player, but it's being driven mostly by IGLing rather than in-server impact of like how he plays the Smokes. For people like Mystic though, and people like Pancada, I am very high on these two players. I think these two are the best Smokes players coming into the event right now. So, number 7. Now, by the way, I'm not on board. I'm sure you've watched the most recent Plaid chat. I'm not on board with Loud winning the tournament or being favorites for the tournament. I think they've got a dark horse chance. But I think pound for pound, they are currently the most skilled team at the tournament. That doesn't mean they're the best, but I think they're the most skilled team at the tournament across the board. I think DRX is another decent shout for another team that's extremely, extremely skilled, but not likely to win the tournament. These things are not the same, okay? These things are not the same. So, let's have a look. Number 7. This is where I've got possibly my most controversial take of the entire list. Possibly my most controversial take of the entire list. There's some W's in there. And there's some fucking... You've got to be trolling Omega lols. So let me at least give my case, chat. All right? Let me give my case. So right now, this is a bit of like a meta-driven argument here. The way that I see the meta right now is that previously I was assuming your flex player was going to have to frag pretty hard. Like at the beginning of 2022, I was thinking about the way that like Cloud9 plays, for example, where they have this flex player being a very, duelisty kind of role. But actually, the teams that I see that have found the most success are the ones that have a crazy primary fragger and then an extremely intelligent flex player that's being able to fill a huge variety of roles and provide that flexibility to the team in terms of the different comps that they can run, while supporting that primary duelist to the absolute best of their ability. And Boaster doesn't frag. At least, he frags more than he did in the past. But he doesn't frag that much. I mean, look at where his ACS was at, right? He sat down here at like the fucking bottom 5 in the tournament for his online fragging. It's not that high. I mean, this isn't kill per round. This is just, ACS or whatever, but gives you some kind of idea. But I think Boaster has been insane recently in terms of providing constant value in the rounds. Not only does his team play an extremely it's not necessarily drilled, but intelligent. I think intelligent is the word that I want to use here. Fnatic play a very intelligent style of Valorant. They implement a lot of interesting fakes into their game. They have some set execs. They have excellent spacing and timing on their trades. They've got down all of the basics, and they also have a bunch of creative stuff that they add on top of that. And I think a lot of credit has to be given for Boaster for doing that. Not only is he the person that's going to be involved in like 90% of the fakes that they run, and I'm sure he's commenting them in the chat as well. I'm sure he's commenting them to the team as well. But when you're looking at how Durka is supported, Boaster's impact is massive. He has so many different set ways of being able to, throw a flash for Durka to peek off, get a knife that's unbreakable that gets them the perfect info in the middle of the round. I think he's put a lot of work in recently and is an extremely smart flex player. And if you're comparing him to the other flex players that are in the tournament, I think he's up there towards the top. Because there are other people that frag harder than him, but don't play the same amount of roles, or make the comps really poor for the team, or don't actually support and just play stuff like a duelist. And then, I mean, I've already spoken somewhat about the IGL capacity too. I understand that this is going to be a controversial one because he just doesn't frag that hard, but I think so much of Fnatic's success is underpinned by Boaster, and you could have said that that was true before he moved to Flex, but I think now it's in the server as well. Do you guys remember how Boaster used to play? Be like playing Lurking Sova and shit. And he'd frag when it came to LAN, but like not that hard. But he'd play a bit better than usual. He is not playing detached from the rest of his team unless there is a specific fake that he's trying to run. He's with them. He's supporting them. He's playing like that Doma supportive role that they did at Champions, but he's playing it better than Doma. He's also IGLing, and he's able to get in there and actually have impact with the fragging as well to a higher degree than he was in the past. So, yeah, listen, it's controversial. I'm standing by it. Boaster at 7th. So, let's take a look then at number 6. Holy fuck, we're going to get into some... There's another really controversial one up here too, by the way. There's another controversial one in here. Still haven't seen King FPS yet. Yeah. So, number 6 is Buzz. Buzz is the biggest tool that DRX have going for them to make it deep in the tournament. That's cap. Where where are you guys getting the that's cap from Buzz? Do you not think he's a good player? He's an insanely good player. He's insanely good. Oh, are you saying that's cap because I haven't unveiled one of the other players yet? I see. So, I think the biggest tool that DRX have available to them in this tournament is Buzz. The reason being that he can outperform most Sentinel players at the event by a massive margin. By a massive, massive margin. I mean cap because he's a top 5 player. I mean, he's one spot away. You're slicing tiny, tiny margins here. So, this is, yeah. I think Buzz is the biggest, like, meta thing also that they can lean on in terms of having, you know, a nasty, nasty chamber. Because some of the teams that have really good chamber players, I mean, I'm thinking of, like, you know, if Nevera played more of it, then maybe Nevera, but well, let me rephrase the way that I want to think about this. A lot of the people that have played quite a bit of chamber have either player that isn't a god at that position or a messier team system. Like Liquid have a pretty damn good player at that position, but just a bit of a mess right now, and you know, Nevera's not even playing full-time chamber for them or anything. He's swapping his role around all the time. So then, you know, Net, you've got somebody who's not at that same kind of level, I think, as people like Buzz, people like Ye. And then a lot of the minor regions are still using just a fuck ton of Cypher too. So I think if DRX are to go really deep in this tournament, they need to just let the leash off Buzz and have him go crazy from a position that a lot of other people are not paying too much attention. Well, North America seems to be paying attention to it, but also North America doesn't have the most skilled Sentinels in the world. In fact, a lot of the Sentinel players are very weak mechanically. So it feels like a lot of the teams heading into Reykjavik are either ignoring Chamber or their Chamber players aren't that great. And I think Buzz, Ye, Mixwell as well can have some serious impact if they start performing to an extraordinary level. So, number 5. I mean, I'm sure you can tell that there's going to be a mad controversial pick in here. I'd call it Boaster-esque. You know? This is where I've got Sadak. And this, okay, I don't personally view this as bad as Boaster. But maybe some people will. Here's why I think Sadak belongs up here. It is, I'm not going to rehash the entire thing, but it's a very similar argument to Boaster being at that kind of level. I think the impact he has from the flex position is extraordinary. He also IGLs, and he is by far and away, I mean, chat, there is no comparison between Sadak's IGLing and the second best IGLs in the whole of the LATAM region. I mean, I'm including Crew in there as well with Klaus. There's no comparison. Sadak is clearly, hands down, the best IGL in the entirety of South America. And it's not close. It's not close. When you combine that with the fact that, again, he's not playing this like frag-heavy duelist flex, but he actually does frag really heavy too. He frags way better than somebody like Boaster does. And that allows him to even like do weird shit like playing the Raze on Split. Which, again, they've only played once, and he kind of clowned the team that they were playing against, so maybe he wouldn't do that again, but the point being, he does frag. He frags very hard. Blink twice if got zeros holding you hostage. Chat. Loud are the most talented roster at this event. That doesn't mean they're going to win, but Loud are the most talented roster at this event. And I've watched a lot of VODs of all of these teams playing, and I really, really believe that. Doesn't mean they're going to win, but I believe it. I believe it. Now, again, A lot of the same arguments apply here. I'm not going to run through all of the different shit, but Sadak, insanely good IGL, especially considering the region that he plays in. He is way better than the other IGLs in the region. Frags, significantly harder than, you know, your Boaster, your FNS. Frags harder than Valen, I believe, although I haven't run the numbers on that, but I think he does. Via the eye test, it seems like he does. Who are the other IGLs that frag at this event? Who are the other, like, high-impact fragging IGLs? I guess Klaus is decent, but Sadak's better. Shandy? Yeah, Shandy. Nookie? Ah, shit, I forgot to put Nookie on my list. Oh, dude. Chat, I'm so dumb. I forgot to put Nookie on the list. Oh, I'm so stupid. Oh, I'm so dumb. I'm so dumb. Okay, number 4. Number 4 is Yay. Now, you could make an argument for putting Yay higher than this, but I would disagree with you. There are 3 people in this tournament who are having more impact in their games than Yay is. There are 3 people in this tournament who are having more impact. And one of them is from North America. But in order to really discuss that, I kind of have to show you the people that he's competing against. Because Yay is phenomenal. I think, you know, the top 4 are just outrageously good players. And then once you start getting to... See, here, there's like the top 4 are outrageous talents. 5 through 8, I'm giving a huge amount of credit for the way that they play supportively, the way that Sadak and Boaster are IGLing, apart from Buzz. Buzz is a bit of an outlier because he just frags so fucking hard from Sentinel. But, you know, the rest of it... Yeah, anyway. Number 3, I'll show you. It's Trent. I've got Trent above Yay here. And let's talk a little bit why. The reason that I've got Trent and Yay so high up the list, for starters, they have unbelievable impact for their teams. Yay, again, playing from that Sentinel position a lot of the time, though he's playing Jet on, what, 2 of the maps? 3 of the maps? Dude, I can't even remember anymore. Have I effed? Am I back? Am I back? Small F? Okay. Anyway, so I have Trent at number 3 here. So why do I have Trent higher than I have Yay? Because I think that Trent's position that he plays on the team is... He by all means... if he... what's the best way of putting this? Most initiator players cannot put themselves into position to get as much impact in the round as Trent does. And he's not just doing it by running at people and killing them, but he is also running at people and killing them. He runs at people, he kills them, he gets almost all of the most important kills in the round are gotten by Trent. You know, you're in like a sticky 3v3 or something, and there's a duel that happens, and it's Trent v somebody else, and whoever wins this, they're going to be massively favored in the round. Trent is good for it so often you wouldn't even fucking believe. This guy has I don't know what stat you could even run to try and support this, but the mid-round crucial kill stat. In fact, actually, there is a stat for this. It was the one that Ominous was working on, the flow of like how likely you are to win a round. I haven't run those numbers, but just from the eye test, it feels like Trent is constantly getting the kills that have massive impact. He also is fabulous with his utility. His ults are amazing. His play outside of Sova is incredible. When he has a bad map, everyone in the community talks about it. He had one bad map this year that I can remember, at least. He had one bad map, and everyone started saying, oh, is this the end? Is this the end? Is Trent not good anymore because he had one bad map? Is this the end of his, fucking honeymoon run? Is this where the inexperience shows? Oh, did he have 2? I can only remember the one bad map, but maybe he's had two. Do you guys know how many maps he's played so far this year? He's played like 66. I think that's how many he's played. I think I have it here, actually. I think I have it listed. Where is he? Trent, guard. He's played 66 maps in 2022. 66. And he's had two bad maps. And in all of the other maps, he, like, is good for 20 kills. He's fucking crazy, man. And I think Ye has done the right thing this year in slightly taking a step back. And it's not like he plays a more supportive role, but there are certainly a lot of maps now in the Optic pool where Victor is the one that goes and takes space on the Neon, on the Rays, and then Ye works with that space. Ye is still their star player on Haven, even though it's Victor that's taking the space for Ye. And then Ye, with all of that room to play the chamber, goes fucking dumb hard. So I still think that Ye's a fucking phenom. But I think Trent is just providing that much extra little bit of impact for the guard right now. So, Durka said let's unveil number 2 and number 1 at the same time. So fuck it, let's do it. Let's do it. Quick question, where would you rank Jonah P? He literally plays every agent for the guard. Jonah P was one of the players that I had on my, like, you know, consideration for the bottom spots, but he ended up getting pushed down a little bit. He ended up getting pushed down somewhere to... I didn't actually do the rankings for 20 to 30, but he would be somewhere in that, like, 20 to 30 list, I think. Because he's a good player, and he really is valuable in terms of his flexibility to the team. But the value that he gets in the server is more to do with being that, like, fill player rather than the actual, like, you know, role that he plays with either his rifle or his utility compared to the other people that are on the squad. So, let's have a look at the number 2 and number 1 players. Durka's not going to be happy. Oh, maybe he is going to be happy. He's gone up the list like fucking 19 places. But here's my number 2 and number 1 player for Masters Reykjavik 2022. It's Nuki and it's Durka. And in the end here, I went with Nuki at the number 1 position because his IGLing for G2 and the way that he's crafted these, the what do you call it? The playstyle of the team around him in a lot of situations has led to a phenomenal revival for this squad. Just Nuki has blasted on G2. And not only is that because he just frags super fucking hard, but he's incredibly smart in terms of how he takes the fights. He's flexible for the team as well. He plays both primary duelist and the fucking initiator for them as well. He's a nutcase. He's an absolute nutcase. But I must say, I was considering putting Durka at the number 1 position because I think Durka is the best duelist at the moment in the game. And I think it's a massive, massive blow for Fnatic losing him. If you look at any stat, I mean, just any stat, I'm not even going to mention what the stat would be, but any stat, Durka's going to be blowing it out the water. He's playing Jet for the team, he's playing Raze for the team, he goes dumb hard on both, and he has the responsibility on Fnatic of having to take all of the opening engagements, and he wins an outrageous amount of them. Now, Durka's performance in those final, what was it, 3 games? 2 games? Final 2 games, right? Yeah. The final 2 matches in EMEA were not that great from Durka. It was a massive drop-off compared to what he'd been able to put up in the group stage and their qualification game against Mech. But I also have seen Durka at LAN before, and I've seen Nuki at LAN before as well, actually. And both of these players go dumb stupid at LAN, especially Durka. I mean, if you look at what he was like at Champions before the event and then at the event, part of this was because Fnatic got their shit together for Champions and actually started implementing some good strats. Even so, they only won on 2 maps from what I can remember. I think they only won on... I think they still only won on Fracture and Icebox, didn't they? Maybe it was Fracture, Icebox, Haven? Did they win that Haven game against Vision Strikers? I can't remember. Anyway, they only won on a very small selection of their maps, but Durka was popping the fuck off. The team actually got their shit together for a couple of the events. Now, Durka might end up actually having the biggest fall off this list. After having been the most underrated player for Champions, he might be the most overrated player here because Fnatic might not even get to groups. Might not even get out of groups. And then Durka wouldn't play, and then it's very difficult to rank a player in the top 20 if they didn't play. So hopefully Fnatic don't just shit the bed. Hopefully Fnatic don't just shit the bed, and they manage to get out of their group, and Durka can play. And then I'm sure Durka will pop off. I thought you said 6 NA players. Did I do the maths wrong? I don't fucking know. How many NA players do I have on there? I can't count. Yeah, all in all, guys, there are some outrageously talented people that are heading into Reykjavik. And what I tried to do with this list was really balance it much more than just who are the best fraggers. So I tried to give, IGLs a lot of credit, the people that play important supportive roles for the teams, not just every supportive player, because, for example, someone in the chat just asked, why isn't Avova on there? I think that Avova and, let's say Avova and, okay, let's just compare the Smokes players, right? So I've got Pancada, I've got Valen, I've got Mystic, 3 Smokes players on my list. Avova plays Smokes, and he plays a supportive Smoke as well, but I don't think he has as much impact for his team as those 3 Smokes players have for their team. I don't think Avova does as much for their success. For example, all the reasons that I listed for the Smokes players that I have on my list, they're either fragging exceptionally well, making very few mistakes, which I think was a big problem with Avova when he played against Liquid the first time around, was the way in which he was adapting, very, very rigid kind of player. And I think a lot of these people have bigger jobs. Like Valen, for example, his job is much bigger because he's the IGL, and Mystic's job is to go and really be that like space preserver for Fnatic. So I think my driving question when I was trying to make this list is, how important are these players to their team's success? And that's why people like Sadak, Boaster are so fucking high up this list, because I think they are absolutely integral to their team's success. And I think thinking about things in that way, how important is this player to their team's success? I think having that question be your driving force helps mitigate some of the like just entry player bias, duelist player bias that creeps into all of these lists. Because for absolutely outrageous talents like Durka or Nuki when he's playing the Raze for the team, or the Jet actually. But anyway, for both of those players, yeah, they are outrageously talented players and add such extra impact to their team that they wouldn't even be the same teams without them. But for other people that play the entry role for their team, they could pretty seamlessly, not seamlessly, it would still take some time, obviously, but they could swap out a different duelist in the region or somebody that was, on a different team that's performing pretty well, and they could probably have pretty similar results. But that's not the case for these players in the top 20, I believe. I think they're extremely integral players. But there are a lot of other people that I just inevitably had to miss off the list. I think there's a lot of people that could be on this list. And actually, there's a lot of people that if their team fixes some shit, could fly up the list. Like Kesnick could be way higher if his team prioritizes playing, maps like Binder Split, where he plays a ton of Raze, where he looks really good. You could have, if Liquid just start playing some normal comps and stop trolling, then maybe Scream flies up the list because now he can actually show how good of a player he is. Or somebody like Navera, if they just play Navera full-time chamber, he could fly up the list. Mixwell, if he continues playing like he did in the final few games of their EMEA qualifier, could massively fly up the list. So yeah, there's a ton of different people that could skyrocket, but I haven't put them on here right now because I think there's better options available right now. But obviously, these are not going to be the top 20 at the end. Oh yeah, I'm ready for the shitstorm, by the way. I think the North American players will be the most mad. I think Marv will be mad. Normally, Optic are mad about anything that we say. So, Optic will probably be annoyed. Who else will be annoyed? Maybe Mixwell? But I really do think the majority of 2022 was looking not so good for Mixwell. So, I have him very much in my wait and see bucket. Because if he continues popping the fuck off, then yeah, he obviously deserves a spot. But I have him in my wait and see bucket. Who else is going to be pissed off, chat? Who else is going to be pissed off? Who do you think? Who are you pissed off for? Chat, who are you mad? Who are you mad about? Waddell, Sentinels. Honestly, I thought Mako was your biggest omission. Let me talk about Mako. So Mako was actually on my initial draft. And I kicked him off my list. He ended up getting moved around a little bit and he got shunted off. So I'm not 100% sure on this, but he would probably be around like 21, 22, something like that. But when I've been watching Mako, I think he lacks something in terms of his read on the game a little bit. The vast majority of the impact that he's able to get is because the guy has outrageous, unbelievable aim. And he wins the duels that he's given at an astounding rate. If you challenge Mako, he will kill you most of the time because he's just that fucking good. But I think he misses something of the read on the game, the timing. He doesn't. I don't know. I'm missing something when I watch Mako about his playmaking, because I think compared to somebody like, let's use Mystic or Pancada as an example, when they're playing smokes, they're extremely good at being aware of where their teammates are positioned in the fights that they're taking and either helping them or finding a little hole in the defense, for example. And Mako makes more mistakes than those guys do when he takes those fights, when he tries to make those plays. But a lot of the time, he just ends up fragging it out. And that can be difficult to see when you're watching the VODs. But he takes a lot of fights where he's not favored, but he just out-frags his opponent. And while his fragging is exceptional, I think it's going to lead to more mistakes at Reykjavik that will end up not making him as impactful as those other players. Having said that, though, Mystic did have a really bad champion, so if he ends up like choking at LAN, then Mystic could look way worse than someone like Mako. But I think their online performances, Mystic has been better. It's just that Mako's in a weaker region and he can frag the fuck out. Sushi Boys? Where would Bravaf be on the list? I don't know. I didn't even think about him really because he's not here. Stacks? The reason that I had Stacks, I can't remember exactly where I rated Stacks in the previous years. Somewhere around like 12th, 16th, something like that. Seems to ring a bell. But a lot of that was because he was IGLing for the team as well. He's no longer IGLing, and he's a good player, but he's not their most impactful player, and I don't think he's their second most impactful player actually either. I'm not sure exactly where I'd rate him. I mean, no, he's definitely not their second, but I don't think he's even their third. Who's IGLing? Zest. I think Stacks is very good at being able to get value out of his utility and set up his players. But I don't think that's enough to be able to get onto a top 20 like this, because there's a lot of players in the tournament that are the same kind of degree. And one of the reasons that I rated him so highly before is because he was able to put up those kind of performances while IGLing. I don't think his performances have really gone up that much since he gave up IGLing. I know that's a big narrative right now in Korea. I've heard the Korean casters talk about it, like, Stacks just looks so much more comfortable now that he's not IGLing, but I don't see it personally. I thought he played really well while he was IGLing, but I don't really see him playing any better with Zest on IGL. I don't see it. Yo, what's up, Brent? Thank you for the 79 months. The complete list? Yep, this is a troll list. There, I said it. Not troll. Show me your list, Logarithm. Show me your list. VLR's losing their shit because A, no liquid players, and B, the entire Loud roster. I don't understand why people would have the liquid players on their top 20 heading into Reykjavik. Can someone explain that to me? Every one of the Liquid players has pulled themselves so thin. They've spread themselves so thin because they've been playing so many different agents. None of them are looking like they're in form right now. There's not a single player on Liquid that looks as good as they did at LCQ and like champs. There's none. There's no one. I think it's got to be just people remembering that they were good in the past, right? And thinking they can get back to that point, which I agree with, but that's not the point of this list. It's like, who do you expect to actually be good at the tournament? Yeah, I mean, Liquid shouldn't even be at the event, but I didn't factor that in. But they kind of go hand in hand because they didn't win their games because they didn't look very good. How do you have Trent above Ye? He has no experience in a tournament like this. That's a good point, actually. That's a good point. There are a lot of rookies at this event. And if you rate all of the rookies, if you rated all of the rookies down because they don't have experience, I think you'd end up fucking the list up even more. So I decided, because here's the reality, chat. Just because you're inexperienced doesn't mean you're going to play badly at your first LAN. I think that gets massively overblown. There are some people who perform badly at their first LANs. There are some people who perform really fucking well. The truth is, you just don't know. The variability is way higher. Somebody like Durka, I know he's going to perform well at the LAN. Someone like Ye, I know he's going to perform well. Nookie, I know he's going to perform well. Trent, you're right. I don't know how well he's going to perform. He might play better than he did online. It's possible. He might play worse than he did online. That's also very possible. Maybe even more possible. But he could also just play exactly the same. And if you think about a lot of the players that have, you know, a lot of the good players in Valorant, very few of them shit the bed at their first LAN event. Very few of them. Most of the people in Valorant actually did pretty well at their first LAN event. There's no, there isn't a crowd of 10,000 people out there screaming at you. There's no one. It's a studio. You're basically just playing in an empty room, shouting at your opponents. It's not like you're playing in a CS major final. So I have chosen not to downgrade rookie talent like Trent, like I'm assuming Pancada, Les Aspas. But it definitely could happen, right? It could absolutely happen. And I wouldn't blame you for rating them down based on that. I wouldn't blame you. I just decided not to do it because I don't think it's actually been a trend so far in Valorant. Did you see Trent has also been playing on 60 hertz, possibly all throughout the tournament too? No, he has. I don't think he's been playing on that back at home. I think he just played on that while he was doing while he was here playing on the practice PCs. My mum is video calling me. And I really should call her back. Fuck. I really should call her. Chat, you're all good if I leave you for a bit, right? While I call my mum. I was supposed to call her this morning and then I just didn't. Just didn't. Yeah. Okay. I'll probably stream in a bit and play some like unrated or something. But I'm gonna bounce. Stop being a bad son, mute right now and call her. I'll probably close the stream. Leave us with the new YouTube video. Dude, that is such a good idea, actually. That's such a good idea. Just put the new YouTube video on and just leave you guys. Slowly dribble the viewers away. I don't know, I might play some unrated afterwards as well, though. Maybe I turn the stream off, I don't know. Is anyone else streaming? Are any of the other people here streaming? Like Bren or something? I'm down to play some unrated. Are you down to play some unrated in like 20 minutes, Bren? Yeah? Alright, let's do it. Let's do it. Alright, chat, I'm gonna take a 20-minute break. I'm gonna stop my stream. I'll turn it back on again in about 20 minutes after I call my mom. Play the YouTube video then? Alright, fine. I'll play the fucking YouTube video, but also, if you are bored by the YouTube video, please don't complain, just fuck off. Because it was either that or close my stream. You're not getting anything better than just a random YouTube video. So if you don't want to watch a YouTube video, now is the time to leave.